Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special Comic-Con adjacent edition of Entertainment Weekly's What to Watch, the show where EW staff help you solve your viewing dilemmas. I'm your host, Gerrad Hall, and joining me for this year's hottest panel are staff writer Chancellor Agard, senior writer Samantha Highfill, and digital director Shana Naomi Krochmal. Hello to all of you. So nice to see you.
Hello.
Can you just imagine the Hall H crowd and the screaming and the cheers for all of us walking out on the stage? So lovely. Yeah. Well, as I mentioned in the intro, this week marks what would normally be Comic-Con San Diego, which is, of course, being held virtually this year due to the pandemic. EW is marking the occasion, though, with our very own Fandom Week. And there's a lot to be a fan of, including upcoming comics, movies, and, of course, TV shows. One show that hits all of those Comic-Con sweet spots is HBO's upcoming horror drama Lovecraft Country, which has its own virtual panel this Saturday, moderated by our own Sarah Rodman. Now, Chance, you have had, for lack of a better word, a chance to check out this show and speak with the stars and creative team. What can fans expect?
Well, basically the show, which is showrun by Misha Green, who made Underground and has Jordan Peele and J.J. Abrams as EPs on it, which just makes it exciting already. But it's based off this 2016 novel called Lovecraft Country that basically imagines that these three Black characters go on this road trip to find one of their missing fathers, and along the way they have to deal with Jim Crow era laws and racism in the country in the 1950s, but then also these sort of supernatural Lovecraftian monsters that terrorize them on the way. So it's sort of it's both a mix of sort of horror and pulp, and then also social thriller commentary as well. Just because some of the stuff that's depicted just isn't that foreign even now.
Well, speaking of, all of those supernatural elements and those horrors, but also these real life horrors that they're facing just as being Black people in Jim Crow South. How do you feel they're doing in terms of striking a balance with not leaning too heavily on one or the other and really like making sure that audiences understand and get the big picture?
I think they're doing a really good job. I think it's just if you set something in 1950 with a majority Black cast, you can't help but have to touch on that. It comes very naturally with the story. This is what the best genre shows do. They take their fantastical settings and then use that to comment on social issues. And I think the show strikes a really, really good balance. Because at the end of the day, it is very entertaining.
And you mentioned earlier some of the great names. The pedigree here is fantastic with Jordan Peele and J.J. Abrams, but also, of course, as the title implies, Lovecraft being H.P. Lovecraft and all of his monsters. How connected really, is this show to his works? I mean, it's not necessarily inspired by his stories, but
I think if you have just like cursory understanding of who Lovecraft was, this very racist author who, nevertheless created so many beloved sort of science fiction and fantasy stories, that sort of sets the tone for the show. But you don't have to be expert in Lovecraft to enjoy it. I think the title, as well as sort of reductive, is that it's not just about him or his work. Even though there's the main character played by Jonathan Majors, Atticus, is a big sort of sci-fi nerd.
Guys, we need to take a quick break, but we'll be back faster than you can summon Cthulhu or Cthulhu, however you want to say it. There's a big debate about it online from the sunken city of Rylea. We'll be right back. Welcome back to What to Watch Fandom Week. Like anything in 2020, being a fan is a little different this year, especially if you're a fan of a TV show that begins with the word super. Sam, both Superstore and Supernatural are shows that typically have a presence in San Diego, and both have had to drastically alter their plans for their most recent TV season. Supernatural was coming to an end and didn't get to finish filming. Superstore was about to bid farewell to America Ferrera, but they didn't get to film that season finale. So where do we stand for both of these shows?
Well, nowhere. It's
right.
one of those things where we're waiting to see. Yeah, for Superstore, obviously, the show is continuing, but America Ferrera was leaving, which is huge. I mean, I'm still a little devastated about it, and it hasn't even happened. But back when they did end and their finale, their last episode that they were able to make kind of aired, I talked to the writers and they said America immediately was like, I will be back next fall. Like, we didn't get a goodbye to Amy, and you have to have a goodbye to Amy. She's the central character.
They've already teased that she's getting another job, offer elsewhere. And she was having a baby, and so it only makes sense.
Yeah, so I think I'm confident that when they do get to film, she will come back, and it will be a lovely goodbye. We just don't have any updates yet on when that might be happening. And I mean, Supernatural is in a similar position, a little bit more dramatic because they had 2 episodes left to film of 327. But the CW had released, a couple months ago saying that all of their shows were pushed to 2021 except for Supernatural, and they were going to try they have 2 episodes to film, so they only need a couple weeks. And so they were hoping that late summer, early fall, they would get to film it, and then they could air the last 7 in their entirety in the fall. Early fall might happen for filming, but as of right now, I mean, they film in Vancouver, the stars are in Austin, and the Canadian border is closed through August 21st. So I don't think they're filming quite yet.
Right. Yeah, so that's important to note. They still had 2 left to film, but 7 still...
Correct.
They still have 7 left to air, right?
Right. So they had filmed 5, but they hadn't been able to finish them because obviously that's a show with a lot of post-production and monsters and visual effects. So there are 5 episodes filmed that are not done, and then 2 left to do completely.
Gotcha. All right. Another show that's definitely done. It's been done for years. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which you have been watching for the first time recently, and you're documenting it in written form for a series of articles on EW.com. Why this show now?
Buffy is one of the, I am very aware that is a big blind spot for me. Like, everyone's like, how have you not? And I'm like, guys, I know I should have watched it years ago.
Where in this are you? Season 1?
No. So I'm actually mid season 4. I just finished a major Angel crossover.
Oh boy.
You're really in the sweet spot.
I know. I'm excited.
What are your initial takeaways from seasons 1 and 2, which we have articles up on already?
Yeah. So 1 was interesting because it wasn't great. And I also, because I never watched it, I tried to stay away from any talk of it, writing about it. So I don't know what fans' favorite seasons are. I know they don't love, the last seasons theoretically, but I tried to stay out of it. And so I was very happy to learn that season 1 is one of the weakest because I liked it, but I was like, people love this? I'm not hooked. I wasn't obsessed. That changed
totally makes sense.
In season 2. Season 2, like I said, I'm in the middle of season 4 right now. And right now, season 2 is my favorite season. I feel like when all the pieces kind of fall into place.
We've talked a lot about how Comic-Con is different this year, but in a lot of ways, it's even more inclusive to fans than ever before, with panels being available for free online. You don't have to wait in line outside in the heat this year. So Shana, with everything going on in the world, why is it so important for fans to still have a link to their favorite franchises?
What I love about our jobs and what we get to do every day is I love when people love things. I love fandom. I love people. It doesn't matter if it's my fandom or not. I love that people have it. I love hearing about what their deep dive is and what their passion is and how far they'll go, how much they want to dress up or they want to go meet people or they want to go hear more stuff about it. So I think it'll be interesting. So much of Comic-Con is really about having to be there in that moment or watch after the fact some of the highlights from Hall H. And while I know there's that thrill of being in the room and being somewhere when something happens, it's also, I hate standing in line. I hate it so much. It's my least favorite thing in the world. So the idea of being able to not do that and not have to have everyone spend the huge amount of money it costs to go, I'm very curious to see how many folks tune in and watch a lot of those panels. I don't think we're going to see quite as many big reveals or sort of dramatic unveilings as we would when people are actually coming. But I think there will probably be a couple of surprises. I would expect. We have some great folks and some great programming. So I'm excited all around. to see what happens with that.
Yeah, and I just want to remind everyone, our latest issue of the magazine is out. Jamie Foxx on the cover for Project Power, which we'll talk about in a future episode. But some great stuff in here, all about kind of Comic-Con related stuff, things that you might see. But also one thing we are missing this year, like you kind of mentioned, Shana, cosplay. We have a great feature on folks who are just incredible at this stuff. That's maybe my favorite part of Comic-Con, is seeing all of the hard work that people put into dressing up. And also, I love standing outside of Hall H when a panel is done and everyone coming out and just like beaming from excitement at the brand new footage they just got to see. And that is our show for this week. I want to thank my guests, Chancellor Agard, Samantha Highfill, and Shana Naomi Krochmal, who, while they didn't get to spend any time in Hall H this year, they did get to spend time with Hall G.
Oh, God.
Ooh.
Okay.
Which, in my opinion, is just as good, you guys. All right, we'll see you next week on What to Watch.